Welcome back, everybody, to the Sanderlanche podcast. This week, we are going to be doing something special. We're going to be going over some of the predictions that our co-hosts made during the Final Empire, now that we're done with it. And I've pulled out some of the best predictions, and we're going to re-listen to those. And I think I also want to talk about, how obvious maybe some of these twists seemed in hindsight. And then, after that, we will be going through the short story, The 11th Metal. So, I am Data, and with me is...
Jack.
Joe.
And Jamie.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting and different episode. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. Okay, everybody, and I pulled out about 6 clips that I wanted to talk about with everyone, and because I thought that they were, like I told you guys, I left out the last 4 to 5 episodes as far as pulling out predictions, and y'all started to come up with some really good ones as we got into that, but at that point it was kind of like, well, yeah, we're reaching the end of the book. Some of these probably are a little more obvious than the other ones, or it's not as impressive as when we were at the beginning of the book and you guys were pulling stuff out. So, our first clip is from Dak all the way back in episode 2.
Oh, Jesus.
Ooh. Is it volcanoes? Was that episode 2?
That's going to come up, but no, it's not episode 2.
Oh, Christ.
So, in this one, we were talking about, we just started to learn about the various allomantic powers, and Dak says...
I don't know, is there one of the powers just full on turns you into Magneto and you fly through the air and just fling metal at people? I mean, it would be cool, but just from what we've seen, I don't know if it fit.
And then, of course, I think it was the very next chapter that people were flying through the air throwing metal at people. So
Called it?
Yeah. I mean, there's some Magneto action in this book for sure. I think the most Magneto we get is probably Kelsier facing off against that Inquisitor.
I think so, yeah.
It gets seriously Magneto at that point. You're not wrong.
Although, that one was still, there was a lot of jumping around stuff, but it was still fairly contained to the ground. The fight with Vin against Chandelier, had them jumping through the air and, bashing at each other mid-air and stuff, so... That's
true, and she, sent a soldier up to bash the other guy mid-air so he fell out of the sky.
Yeah.
So... There's definitely some Magneto stuff, but we hadn't learned about pushing and pulling metal at that point, so it was I thought that was a really good prediction for what the metals would end up being like, because a lot of the battles really the pushing and pulling is really important, and that is where we get into the whole Magneto sort of thing.
Yeah.
The next one is a kind of a similar thing, but this one is from Joe in episode 4.
I'm hoping that we get some kind of development that we haven't seen before with these characters, where we get to see Vin interacting one-on-one with maybe some of the other characters, maybe one-on-one with Breeze, helping him do things. Yeah. One-on-one with Hammond, helping him do things. And
then we got exactly those things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's not, I predicted it. That's not a complete shot in the dark. You would imagine that there's going to be some character development with each of these gang members, whatever you want to call it, thief crew members. But we did, almost immediately get that. So that was pretty funny.
Well, we sort of did, but then we spaced them out. She didn't get to, do anything with Ham till much later on in the book from there.
Then Spook was almost at the very end, actually.
Well, we just kept forgetting that Spook is Jamie and I were talking about this last night. We kept forgetting Spook even is an element. So it's oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. He is one, isn't he?
Right. I completely forgot he was an official part of the crew until they would ask him things like, "What do you see?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's he's just kind of hanging around because he's the nephew. You, my friend, are the subject of nepotism.
But apparently he was their best Tin-Eye because they sent him with,
Yeah.
Renu
Yeah.
when they left.
Which, I mean, makes sense now, but earlier in the book, I was like, this kid is here just to make things confusing. What is his role?
Yeah, wasing with the seeing. I mean, come on.
But like, could you imagine that? Your best Tin-Eye and you can't understand him. Like, that's not
Yeah,
good.
the lookout's not a very good lookout if you can't understand what he's saying.
Not optimal. I'll agree with that. Although apparently, like, Kelsier seemed to understand him, and presumably, like, his uncle understood him. Breeze didn't, but who cares about Breeze, right? So.
I think the worst part about him is, like, you find out he can talk normal.
Yes.
He just continues to choose to talk that way and confuse the people he's with.
Well, no. I think as we get towards the end of the book, he's, like, putting in an effort to, like, start talking normally. And it.
Do you think
that it's kinda
from the time... But you think from the time he was a small child, that's the way everybody talked to him? His parents, even though Clubs is his uncle, his parents were like, wasn't with the doing, child. Like, what? No.
You don't know what his parents were like.
For some reason, as soon as you said that, all I thought was, it's the phrase in this one, Club's your uncle.
Well, speaking of Clubs, he's the one guy that we, like, didn't get any one-on-one experience with in the crew.
Yeah,
I
he
think
just kind of
people were
faded in the
disappointed by it.
background. I was, yeah.
Which I think was really interesting because a lot of that sort of grey area that we're now looking at towards the end of the book, that Vin can penetrate a copper cloud. And I think Mare was the same branch of Alamancy, and that she was the one that was, like, the betrayer. And I think it's really interesting that this is the one we haven't really explored the ins and outs of how it worked. So I'm hoping that will carry over.
Mare was a Tin-Eye, like Spook.
Oh, was she?
Yeah,
Okay.
they had a smoker with them that night, but he got killed. His name
Yeah.
was Red.
Spoker's
Sorry,
red.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's when we made the joke about practice my stab in red.
In fairness, we've made that joke multiple times.
Yeah, no.
I mean, Dave Herman's a great actor, and that's a great character.
It's a great line.
But in the annotations, he kind of mentions just in passing that, like, they don't have that one-on-one learning to use the powers things with Club because Copper is, I guess, just on or off. There's not, like, any subtlety to it, according to him. So there wasn't much for her to, like, learn there, I suppose.
Hey, Clubs, press the copper button. Done. I'm contributing.
Well, that's the one scene, I mean, like, where Spook's like, hey, you're wasn't with the smoke, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm smoking. Or no, he's like, you're really with the burn, right? Whatever it was. It's Spook lines,
It's stupid.
Spook, what do your tin eyes see? Like, taking over the hobbits to Isengard.
He's like, Uncle, you really with the burn? He's like, fuck you, Spook.
That's if Joe was Spook's uncle. That's just what he would say to him. It's like that episode of The Next Generation where they're like, shut up, Wesley.
Shut up, Wesley.
Okay, next one is from episode 7, and this is from Joe. And this is the one that he wasn't even willing to put it in the prediction segment because it was just so out there.
Whoever wrote these epigraphs was who the prophecy was about. But then Rashek wants to be who the prophecies are about. So Rashek kills the guy who wrote the epigraphs and becomes the Lord Ruler, pretending he is the chosen one.
God damn.
Yeah, it was a big Hail Mary pass that I was like, this is crazy talk. It's not going to be really what happened. And then I was very surprised when Jamie laid it all out for us, and I was like, oh, yeah, maybe that's right.
You're just like, meant to do it.
Of course, it's part of the same prediction, like that same clip, if it had gone on a little further, would have had him being like talking about how Sazed is also secretly working for Rashek. And
hey, I said they may be in cahoots. He could still turn. We don't know. Sazed could be bad.
Yeah, I think that was one of your predictions from the end of the last episode. It was like something's going to happen with Sazed.
Yeah, I don't think we're done with the Sazed turns, if you will.
Yeah. You've been on that train for a while. It's like you really don't like that guy.
Oh no,
Well,
I love
not
Sazed.
not trust that guy.
I don't trust him. That's the way.
Can't
I
trust
feel about
anybody
it.
that you like that much.
Well, yeah, I just don't trust him. He's obviously hiding lots of things, and it's the guys that are like seemingly helpful, and caring, but they're hiding lots of stuff that you're like, I don't know about that.
It's like at the end of the book, he's gonna like just cut Spook's throat and go, "Wasing with the terrace."
I don't know why, but okay.
He's like, you know, he can't hear that, right? You just killed him.
Oh, poor Spook.
He will take any opportunity to dump on that guy.
He's like, stay away from my mistress, Slit.
Wait, so Say's gonna have a mistress? Oh, you mean Vin? Okay.
Well, yeah, that's what he calls her the whole. Did you read this book?
Well, no, I mean the way you're like, stay away from my mistress, and like it turns violent. It sounds more like, you know, a romantic thing. And I'm like, wait, Say's has a mistress? How's that work? But no, okay, I follow you. Okay. Then we make a big jump. We're jumping to episode 13. And this one is from Dak, and he says,
I'm fairly convinced now that Marsh is going to become an Inquisitor down the line. Wait, what? I don't remember saying that. I remember having that as the theory. I don't remember going, yes, I'm certain this is a thing.
No, yeah, that's what you said.
He's quoting
I
you
played
word
myself.
for word.
You surprised yourself with your own next prediction.
Yeah, and I think you kind of stayed on that one in the next episode. You're like, yep, I still think, you know, there's a good chance that Marsh is going to become an Inquisitor into episode 14. And after that, it was kind of forgotten about. Until we got to the end, and it was like, hey.
I think I stuck with the whole he's not dead, but...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think after Kelsier died, you're just like, oh, well... And I kind of get it, because like half of the impact of Marsh becoming an Inquisitor is the theoretical scene where he confronts Kelsier, and Kelsier's like, oh my god, my brother! And you don't get that now. You get Vin and Say's seeing. Nobody else, I guess, in the book sees him.
That we know of, anyway.
Yeah, unless you count the Lord Ruler.
I think, in the epilogue, are they not back, like, with Doxson and stuff?
No, in the epilogue, like, she specifically says that, like, Say's has gone and talked to them, but she wasn't ready to see them yet, and he kind of communicated to them that she needed to rest. And then the three of them just kind of have a conversation.
Marsh is just chilling in the break room. Like, yeah, I'm going to hide behind the vending machines.
Well, he's in charge of everything now. He probably took over the Lord Ruler's bedroom, like pulled out all these decorations and paintings and shit. Let me guess.
Yeah, he's walking around in his snowshoes, even though he doesn't need it.
He's holding up like the woolen cloak. Just like, what is this? What even is this? It smells horrible. There's holes in it.
It's like, what are these animal pelts? The only animals I know about are horses and mistwraiths.
Can you eat a mistwraith?
I mean, why not?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That's a really good question, actually.
Gross.
Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, well, you can eat it, you wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Once you eat it, it eats you from the inside out.
Might.
Ugh.
Okay, and then we go to episode 14, which was the big one from Jamie. And actually, the clip that I have from it is really short because she gave that whole long like thing where she had all the support, but the actual clip is 2 seconds where she's like,
I think the Lord Ruler is actually Rashek.
We listened back to that episode and it just went on and on and on. I was like, oh man, I was talking for such a long time.
That's because you were trying to support your theory. There's nothing wrong with that.
And everybody was impressed and loved that. So
I was, I mean, there's no way I supported that same theory in episode 7. I was just like, you know what, guys? I'm about to blow your mind. Rashek is the Lord Ruler.
And a stapler.
Yeah.
I was like, what's that meme of Elon Musk smoking weed? That was you.
Yeah. I was like, wait, guys, wait. What if Rashek? Hold on, Rashek. He's that terrorist dude, right? Yeah. Rashek is secretly it's a conspiracy, right? He kills the Lord Ruler, or he kills the guy who's the prophecies about. He becomes Lord Ruler. He takes over, right? Is anybody with me? And then 7 episodes later, Jamie's like, here's what actually happened.
Well, and then when Jamie gets to the beginning of her, she's starting her prediction, Joe's like, oh, wait, I think you're touching on something I predicted. And I'm just like, you be quiet, you. Let her predict.
Quiet, you.
I really liked in the end, just the word that triggered me to think back over it all was the same thing that Vin went through. when he started talking about dominance, and I was like, yes, see, exactly, caught up.
So not only did you get the theory right, but you follow the same train of thought.
So I feel like that shows you that it's a pretty good reveal. Is it something that was built in well enough that several episodes before the end, Jamie could put the pieces together and predict it?
Yeah, I think they did it really well. I'd love to read back through the whole thing and see what other things we might have missed, little signs. They're obviously there because the seed was planted for Joe, so there's something there.
Yeah, I think if I did reread this book, I'd do it after I read like all three.
Yeah, that'd be the way to go.
Yeah, just because I know
late for the other books.
Yeah, like I noticed so many more things after completing a series. Like I picked up the first Harry Potter book again, I think like 3 or 4 years ago, and there's a hint in that very first book to something that happens in the very last book, and I was just like shocked. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is in here. I can't believe I didn't notice this before.
Which thing is that?
So we're going on a long tangent here. So when Harry goes into the forest and the centaurs are like, we can't go against what the stars have foretold. Basically, the centaur saves him from Voldemort in the Forbidden Forest. Yeah. All the centaurs are reading the stars saying Lord Voldemort is going to kill Harry in the Forbidden Forest, which is exactly what happens in the seventh book.
Never put that together.
No, neither have I.
No, I mean, I like I said, this was like 3 years ago when I read that, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, yeah, because if you think about it, the centaurs are not wrong. They can read the future well. So they knew it was going to happen. It's just we didn't know when it was going to happen and exactly how it was going to happen.
They got the date wrong.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, yeah, and there are, as we progress through the other two books, you will see that there's a lot of stuff built in even to early parts of this book that will pay off in book 2 or 3. So he constructs them pretty well like that. So we didn't touch on it a lot as we went through these because the first one was Magneto and the second one was like the one-on-ones, and it didn't really fit there that well. But what do you guys think that the major twists here, like Marsh becoming an Inquisitor and Rorschach is the Lord Ruler, that you guys managed to predict in hindsight? Do you feel like these were like they were obvious, or I mean, you were able to predict them, so there must have been some. There's clearly some stuff pointing there. But how obvious do you think like the major twists of the book are in hindsight now that you've read the whole thing?
I think obvious very much. Like they laid the seeds, and we were able to predict them. But like I wouldn't call them obvious. If I was just reading the book start to finish, I probably like the Marsh becoming Inquisitor. I don't think I would have picked up on that until it happened. Like that's just like going back, thinking about it, and trying to think up of honestly weird shit to come up with.
I think too, though, we've read this book in a far different manner than what most people would read it. So we're only reading 2 to 3 chapters a week, and we're dissecting them for a couple of hours every week and working through our thoughts and other people's thoughts and sort of hearing what other people are picking up on. And then we take that with us into the next chapter. Whereas if we're sitting there just reading this book cover to cover by ourselves, I think there are things that we wouldn't have noticed. So we had a lot more puzzle pieces to put together. I don't think that these twists would have been obvious, but by the time we got to them, it makes sense. So yeah, like I'm not sure that we would have predicted as much if we weren't actively thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Jamie's right. I think the format of the show lends itself, which I'm sure is why people like form book clubs and stuff. It's like if you're sitting there dissecting 1 or 2 chapters with somebody or a group of people, you're obviously going to pick up on more things than if you just read it by yourself. And so I totally agree with what Jamie and Daka both said. It's like these weren't obvious twists, but because we're actually diving into the text in depth and discussing it and putting things together with each other and throwing out ideas and wild theories and fun stuff like that, I think that's really what made it become easier for us to kind of link things together.
Yeah, I'm kind of forcing you guys to play the puzzle without all the pieces and see which pieces can fit together as we go instead of getting all the puzzle at once, which is how I always read them. I read stuff really fast, and I never have time to stop and like think about stuff. I'm just like, I want to find out.
Well, when you read this book for the first time, like, did you predict any of these things? Or
I totally don't think that I stopped long enough to even think about them. I think that I just experienced them as they came and was like, oh my gosh, Marsh, really? Because he says, like, in the annotations, he's like, you were probably expecting Marsh to come back. And it's been a long time since I read this book for the first time, but I don't think that I was even thinking about it deeply enough to be like, I wonder if Marsh will come back. They tell me he's dead, I buy that he's dead until we hit the twist, and it's like, oh my gosh, really? He's an Inquisitor now. But that's, I guess, I read so fast that I don't have time to think about things. Because I want to get
and I think the way we discuss things, it was... By the time Jamie said her piece in the 14th episode about Rorschach, I'm just like, it was less of a twist that he was Rorschach than it was that Marsh was gonna like actually became an Inquisitor. At least to me, I felt like, wow, Marsh really did become an Inquisitor, but he still like he retained all of his self-awareness. I did not expect that to happen. So
like Marsh retaining his awareness, I think that's probably actually just part of the process, because, like, to start with, we think of the Inquisitors as these faceless, nameless monsters, and we don't know anything about them. But then, like, the later into the book, we learn they do have names and personalities. So I'm just like, so they're not monsters. They're just guys, and their savagery is basically still their personality. I think, like, I don't think that actually changed. They just gained extra powers and, a few extra bits.
So you don't think, like, over time those powers corrupted them, like their minds and their bodies?
Well, potentially over time, but yeah, it's like the fact that Marsh didn't straight away become a mindless monster makes me think, okay, so there's got to be at least traces of their original personality still in these people, even if it's been warped, because they're not just mindless monsters anymore.
Yeah, well, and they definitely didn't seem to evaluate him for, like, a love of bloodshed like these other ones have.
Yeah.
So that's probably not part of the criteria. But then, like, they really do. Like, they all ran across the room to keep stabbing Tavidian over and over, and they were really into it. So there must be something. True.
But it's like this is also a very cutthroat world where, the nobility are trying to screw each other over as much as possible. So maybe they just picked a whole bunch of psychos.
Could be. And I think that there's a lot more kind of clues and foreshadowing about Rorschach than there's about Marsh. The main thing that we got about Marsh was what Dak kind of latched onto was the fact that there's a body, but it was unidentifiable, and everyone just assumed it was Marsh. And Dak is like, no, I'm genre savvy enough to know that when you can't identify a body, you don't just assume that it's the guy that you think it is.
Right.
And there's a couple other small clues that there's something up with one of these guys. Like, for instance, when they all run across the room to stab Tavidian, the guy that's holding Vin stays, and one other Inquisitor stays. And she's like, I don't know why he stayed. But then once you know, you're like, oh, right, because Marsh doesn't have a love for stabbing people. So I guess he didn't run with the rest of them.
He doesn't need to practice his stabbing.
Okay, but to wrap up our prediction segment, our Predigments look back. I don't know. I don't know what to call it. I probably should have come up with that beforehand.
Retrospective.
Ooh, that's a good word. There's one prediction that just could not be left out from Dak in episode 3.
Jesus Christ.
That he says
maybe Atium creates volcanoes, and that's what Kelsier did underneath Tressing's palace. He created a miniature volcano and burned the place down. Okay, so I feel I need to point out the reason I latched onto volcanoes as much as I did was the very first thing we got in this entire book is the fact that ash is constantly raining on this world. Because the sky has basically been obscured, the sun is red because there are all these volcanoes around the world that are just constantly belching forth ash. God, that was a gross word. And apparently before the Lord Ruler came to be, like, those were not there. You had plants, you had a yellow sun, you had everything. So my assumption early on, which, yeah, sure, it's been proven wrong. I fully accept that. But, like, I just latched onto the Lord Ruler created these volcanoes. How? Probably with the metal that he safeguards with his life. That is where my head went. So that's why I latched onto it so much.
I mean, he still created them somehow, or even with a different metal. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
I don't think anybody's sad or confused or upset with you for creating the volcanoes prediction. It's an amazing prediction.
It's like, it's not just like a piece of bullshit I came up with out of the blue. It's like there was a logic behind it.
I actually tried to edit the mountain avalanche logo that we have for the podcast to make it a volcano after somebody suggested that in an episode, but I am not artistic enough to make it look decent at all. It looked really horrible, so I gave up on that.
Yeah. But that does lead into I don't know if it's really a plot thread, but it's just like a background detail that was sort of left hanging about when Rashek ascended and became the Lord Ruler and did whatever he had to do to the deepness. Something about that set off volcanoes, and they're still going. So will we ever find out what the go is behind that? Presumably, considering how much focus there is on what the world was like before the shit went down. So.
Yeah, I mean, the next book's called Well of Ascension, right? Maybe we find out what happened at the Well of Ascension. That would be fitting.
Yep.
Or maybe we don't find out what happened at the Well of Ascension. That would be less fitting.
In reality, as far as we know, there's only one guy who knew, and he's dead now. So unless they find his real diary, it may be tough to know what happened.
Maybe the deepness can talk, and it's like, yeah, man, I was watching this. I saw that one guy stab that other guy. Shit was wild.
Maybe the deepness will have his own diary.
Ooh, with his tentacles like coming out and writing good.
Probably create his own ink, it'll be great.
I write with the blood of innocence.
Now you got me thinking it's like one of those creatures trapped in the prison in the Dresden Files.
Blood,
murder,
death, pain, murder, blood, death, pain.
Okay. That is all the predictions that I pulled out for this week or for this episode, except for a few that I pulled out that apply to either books 2 or 3, where somebody came up with some good stuff. So stay tuned. We may do more of these episodes when the time comes.
Before we move on, can I ask you something about one of the emails we got?
Okay.
Early on, someone emailed in. It was like one of the first few episodes. I forget which one exactly, but someone emailed in and said they were convinced one of the three of us had read the book before based on their predictions. Who were they talking about? This has bothered me for weeks.
Oh, I'm pretty. I think that may have been Joe's episode 7 prediction about Rashek, because there were lots of comments at the time. And the funny thing is, episode 7 is also the one that I uploaded and accidentally deleted and had to upload again. And so before I accidentally deleted the episode, someone had made a comment that was like, oh my gosh, when I heard that one prediction, I'm not going to say which one, I nearly fainted or something. I don't remember exactly what he or she said. And I went in and replied to them like, oh, I know exactly what you mean, because I felt the same way. And it was while I was replying to them that I accidentally deleted the episode. So... But I suspect that is probably what they were talking about. I remember the email you're talking about. I don't remember exactly when it came in or what episode that would have been after.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean,
one was really early on, though.
It was clearly a sober/drug-induced prediction with no backing. I've never read this book before. I think I had full disclosure at the beginning of the podcast. I had only ever read the epilogue before, and I was so bothered by the epilogue originally. Prologue, yes, thank you.
Weird to start in the epilogue, but
yeah, I'd only read the prologue before, and it was so like weird to me. I was like, nah, I'm not reading this.
And I'm going back to see if I can find the email he's talking about. Okay, so actually, let's see. Somebody said after they listened to, I assume they listened to episode 5. I swear Joe's read this book before. His predictions are a bit too correct. Because my reply is, thanks. We just recorded episode 7. So check out everyone's responses to your email at the end of that. And I know what you mean about Joe, especially some of the stuff he says in the one that we just did. So that was like the 3rd email that we ever received was that one. So that made
I wonder what I predicted after episode 5.
Yeah, now I got to go back and listen to that one. Okay, but moving on. Like I said, we may do more of these in the future since I've got a few clips saved already. But we'll have to see if people liked this, if I missed some predictions that I should have picked out that were your favorites. Feel free to email us, and I'll have a section in the episode where we receive your email where I'm like, here's the stuff that I missed because I was stupid. Feel free. Or
we can just say they're listener favorite predictions.
Yeah, but mine was funnier.
Oh, sorry. Well, I shit on that. I apologize.
So, moving in to The 11th Metal. What did you guys think of this short story? This and remember, it was written for this role-playing game specifically because apparently lots of people, the way he explains it is a lot of times a person who's a big fan of something will buy the role-playing game that fits with that, but the other people in their group don't necessarily know anything about that thing, whatever this person loves so much. So they needed something to introduce the universe to those kind of people who are getting pulled into this RPG.
Familiar. It sounds familiar to me. I feel like I've gone to my brother's house and played role-playing games that I have no basis for what they are.
I don't think that's true. I haven't played many RPGs. I played the Dresden Files RPG with some people once, but that was, you were not there.
Oh, yeah, I said RPG. I really meant board game.
Oh, well, yeah, I got lots of those.
I liked it. This one felt to me as like there's not a lot here that we don't sort of already know, like in terms of like world building. But it's nice to see Kelsier sort of getting his starting point. I love this picture at the start of Kelsier and Gemmel standing. It's like Gemmel looks exactly how I pictured him, with the wild hair and the very cranky expression. And there were a few notes in here which, over the last week, I've sort of just been trying to write down, all right, what things going to, have not really been answered by the first book or this short story. And, this short story brought up a couple. He says that one, Kelsier, Gemmel is the only mistborn that Kelsier knows. I'm like, okay, curious to see how that happened, how he found him and how he knows. And also there's that note where Gemmel's bagging out Kelsier and talking about how he was in the old days, and Kelsier's like, "How do you know what I was like in the old days?"
Mm-hmm.
Which is all right, cool. That's a very that's got to come to something. So this is making me think that Vin is going to meet Gemmel down the line, which will be cool. I look forward to seeing that interaction. But their little heist was a lot of fun, and saving people in Kelsier's first real fight. It's like, well, that was a bit easy, but oh well, that works. I guess you can't really kill him off before the first book.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of precious nuggets out of this little short story. I was hoping that there would be more and maybe I'm just too dumb to see them, but I was hoping there would be more secrets that were revealed by this short story somehow. But yeah, I did key into the same stuff that Dak talked about with Gemmel and Kelsier. I think one character development thing I did find really interesting is that this point in Kelsier's training, he's much more focused on trying to be who he was as a thief and using allomancy in that way, as opposed to when he becomes a fully realized mistborn in the book and he's just beat ass. It's very different. Yeah. But you understand that based on the conversations he has with Gemmel. It's that's who he learned that from. Gemmel's like, no, you're a mistborn now. You're not gonna talk your way out of stuff. You're gonna destroy these people. That's what you're gonna do. And so the kind of nice assurance I got from it was, it's like Kelsier, when we read about him in the first book and he kind of takes these dark turns, this little short story kind of helped you feel like, okay, he wasn't always this way. There's a reason that he has these dark thoughts. There's a reason that he doesn't feel that when he crosses the line, sometimes there's a reason he may not feel it or sense it. It's because he's very, very damaged. And it was this event at the pits that damaged him in this way. And it's not just in his character. It's something that traumatized him and changed him. So I did really appreciate that. And then, of course, you always get the little button at the end where he picks up the book that's about the 11th metal. So
yeah, and I'm actually, it makes me think, because at some point recently, in the last few episodes, I think you were like, it's supposed to be a high story, and Kelsier's supposed to be this great con man, and you don't feel like he pulls that sort of job, con job on people. And in a different book where Kelsier is more focused on emotional allomancy, he's kind of inclined to be here, it would be a lot less violent and a lot more con artistry, where he's kind of nudging people with allomancy as he tries to con them, which could have been really interesting. Is not the kind of book that we end up getting, because this is more actiony. But
and the setup is a dupe on the readers. The setup for the whole book is a dupe on the readers, because they're duping us into thinking they're really pulling a heist when what Kelsier is really after is a revolution.
Yeah, and so he kind of does con not only the readers, but like his crew, and he's running like a really big con on a lot of people, including us, by the end. So maybe that desire to have a con kind of pays off in some way.
But it's also a bit of a different leap because, yeah, as you say, in this one, Kelsier is focusing on using sort of the mental allomantic powers, and then when he's fighting the Inquisitor, Vin is just staring. It's like, this is what he does, the steel pushing and iron pulling. That's his focus. I'm just like, well, that's a big difference there. So
yeah.
But I guess in this book, that's what he was told to do. Like, we're looking at Gemmel's teaching style, and which is questionable. But I thought it was really cool to see, how he was taught, and then how he then taught Vin what he knew, and to see sort of what he took away from Gemmel's teachings, but then what he also thought was important, passing that on to Vin.
He's a lot nicer to Vin, for sure.
He's a lot nicer, but there's still like, okay, let you fail on your own. I'm not going to push you off buildings when you don't know, or kick you behind the knees and throw you off a tower. That's not how I'm going to do it, but I am going to let you mess up because you need to learn, which I thought was a big message in this story too. It's like Gemmel just had a slightly different way of showing it. But, coming back to, he was very focused in this story on being able to be that con man. But, Gemmel saying, you're going to have to push, you're going to have to pull, you've got to be physical. This is the only way you're going to win this. This was an easy mistborn. You're just going to come up against so many different struggles, which he's then taken away and gone, yep, this is how we're going to have to do this. So it was sort of nice to see in this book how Kelsier was starting to form who he was, what was important to him. He started this short story just broken, and you've got someone who's just like, you want revenge, just kill everything, kill all the noblemen, which you can see how Kelsier's come about that, but then that caring nature where Gemmel didn't give a rat's about these poor people that were, bound and beaten in this shed. But Kelsier, he still had compassion and still sort of realized that there was something he wanted to fight for, and this better world, and how can we have this? So it was really nice to see him sort of grow in this story. He started out completely broken and then sort of had a purpose of where he wanted to go.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the main character development bit of this story is Kelsier going from guy who escaped the pits and has no idea what to do to guy who has a plan now, and a very ambitious one at that.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of good, kind of bouncing off what Dak and Jamie have both said. There's a good amount of understanding you get from Kelsier's character from where he is now to where he is in the first book. I think one thing that stuck out to me as well is basically his philosophy of how to live has changed quite a bit. Like at the beginning of this short story, Gemmel's basically telling him, it's like, you have to be beyond what everybody else is. You have to be strong. You have to stand alone. You have to do all these things. And we see him try to do that in the first book a lot, but he's working as a part of a crew. And so it doesn't always work for him because he's enacting his plan exactly how he sees it. And that's why you see some of his irresponsible choices, like him taking Vin on the trip to go to the palace, because I mean, that's what his master would have done. His master would have probably just taken him along and said, okay, let's do it. So you kind of get why he does the things, some of the irresponsible things that he does with Vin and with some of the other people around him from this. It's like that's how he was taught to be a mistborn. So that's how, he is being nicer to Vin than his master was, but he's also saying, okay, you want to do it? Let's do it.
Gemmel is a weird dude. And it's interesting because after the story came out, obviously in the book, we heard him referenced like once or twice. And Kelsier calls him like this crazy old guy who trained him, right? And then this comes out and we get to actually experience his personality, and holy crap, yes, he's a crazy old dude. And so after this came out, he was kind of a big topic for people who are asking Brandon questions at like conventions and stuff. And so people are like trying to figure like how did Kelsier find this guy? What was his training like? And most questions Brandon tends to answer with RAFO, which is read and find out, RAFO. It's basically saying that might come out later, so I'm not going to tell you. And the one that sticks out in my mind is someone asked, so at the end of Kelsier's training, did Gemmel like fight him to the death to, is that how this training ended? And Brandon's like, I'm not going to tell you that, but it totally does seem like the kind of thing he would do, doesn't it? I'm like, yeah, it kind of does. But we also know that he's trained apparently some other mistborn, so probably that's not the end of his training. But
yeah, and I don't know if we're doing predictions on the outcome of the short story, but so I'll just put this here. I got this weird feeling reading it that somehow Gemmel is like the original chosen one. I don't know why it hit me that way, but him talking about like somehow he knew Kelsier in the old how Kelsier was in the old days, and just like some of the stuff, it just gave me this weird feelings like, is this the original one that the prophecy was about, and he's somehow stayed alive all this time, and like Rashek did, like, but I mean, I guess the original chosen one wasn't a terraceman, so he wouldn't have been able to use feruchemy, but I don't know, I just got that weird feeling, but that's
also he's got allomantic ability, and
right.
Like, then they say like Rashek granted allomancy to his followers or something.
That's what we think. They weren't sure on where it came from. Really.
Yeah, okay, that was never confirmed. So
yeah, and so I got that weird feeling. I also got the weird feeling that he might have been like an alien from another planet for some reason, because I don't know. Those were the two weird feelings I got from Gemmel. I don't know why.
Well, when you look at this,
the training ended by Gemmel going, "I have to go. My home planet."
When you look at the picture at the beginning of the short story, I could totally see him being an alien. He's freaking insane. Look at this guy. I can't stop looking at the picture. I've had it up the whole time we've been talking. He's just so insane. He's got like one giant eye and the mist cloak. Like, this is maybe the first picture we've gotten of a mist cloak, actually, and it's kind of freaky.
Well, this is the first picture in general, really.
Yeah, unless you count, like, I don't know what's on the cover of y'all's copy of the Final Empire, but yeah, this is, and we got to look at Kelsier. He looks also strange, really. This is a weird picture in general, I think. And I guess everyone wears these pants. The cuffs are all rolled up. You're a calf. I don't know.
I like the little detail that Kelsier is tucking the picture of the flower into his pocket.
Yeah, that is a good detail, since the story starts off talking about the picture of the flower.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that he didn't have the original picture that Mare had, that he was like trying to draw that from memory.
Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly, in the Final Empire, when he's talking to Vin about it, he tells her that Doxson had saved some of Mare's old stuff and that the picture was in that.
Oh, so the one he gave her was the original one. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point, I guess he hasn't gone back to see Doxson yet, so he doesn't know that it still exists.
And I think that was something about this story, is like it shows us these two hanging out and doing their thing, but it still leaves a lot of questions hanging. It's like, what happened to Kelsier after he snapped and killed everyone in the pits? Like, how long was he wandering? Where did he go? How did he find Gemmel? Yeah, there's a bit of a jump from Kelsier snapping at the pits to this, and I'm just like, it didn't really answer what happened in that gap. And I was expecting a bit more of that, but it didn't come up. It's like, not that that's a bad thing. I just was surprised that they didn't have more of that in there.
I think it said on the title page, is it the title page, and Dak, you've got the book with you, the title page for the 11th Metal, it says that this could be read before the Final Empire. So, I mean, they're not going to give away a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Anyway.
Yeah, good point.
I did like, we got a little tidbit that apparently, like, Doxson likes a fight every now and again.
Yeah, that's some personality for Doxson that doesn't seem like it fits, but I guess, when he was a younger guy, he's a scrapper. Okay, let's get into this, going through this thing. So yeah, it does start out with the flower, and Kelsier's trying to redraw it, and Gemmel's like, I should stop you from doing that. And they have a whole conversation about how he shouldn't be thinking of the past or whatever. I like Kelsier smiles, and it took effort, and then Gemmel goes, you look creepy when you do that.
This is just because Gemmel doesn't know how to smile.
Yeah, he's like, you've never had a real smile in your life, you old heap of ash. See, I agree that I feel like I want to know how Kelsier and Gemmel met, and I've always assumed after reading this story that it was like, because we know Gemmel mentions kind of he's trained some other ones like Kelsier, and I always kind of figured that he's known in the underground as like the Ska Mistborn. So when you need training, like that's the only place you can go basically if you happen to also be one.
Angry Yoda.
Which really, you wouldn't go to this guy if you had a choice, I feel like. But he survived a long time, presumably, so maybe you would. I don't know. And so he's taking him to Keep Shezler to and Kelsier's immediately like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. I need a costume, some clothing, jewelry, a tailor who can keep his mouth shut. And it's clear that like Kelsier's immediate plan, he jumps into like con mode, and he's been asking around on the street, and he's found out about this guy before he even knew that they were going to be robbing this guy or attacking this guy, because that's what he does. He keeps his ear to the ground and gets ready for stuff. And Gemmel says, you're a mistborn, not some street soother working for Clips. I don't even know what that means. I guess I don't know how you're working for Clips as a soother on the street, but okay.
I imagine that's just like a beggar sitting on the side of the street doing the Jedi mind tricks. Like, you want to give me 5 cents?
I guess that would make sense. I feel like from knowing Breeze, you can get by pretty well as a soother if you are in the right, if you're in the right business. Begging feels a little bit.
Want to buy me a drink?
That's how Breeze would start, right?
Oh yeah.
He just sits in a bar all day. He's like, you want to buy me a drink. Yeah, and really, Gemmel just keeps kind of going off. He just has speech after speech about how, Kelsier needs to man up and fight like a real mistborn and so on and so forth. And we get these brief flashes where I think they didn't want to go since this is supposed to be for people, you can be exposed to it if you've never read any mistborn anything before. He didn't want to go too deep into, what happened to Kelsier, but you keep getting flashes like where Kelsier says, memory is a dark hole lined with crystals sharp as razors.
Yeah, he's still dealing with that PTSD.
Yeah. Her sobs as she died. So sad. Gemmel says, when I'm done with you, you'll be able to kill 100 men with a single coin. Pull a man's sword out of his fingers and strike him down with it, which is exactly the kind of thing that Kelsier is able to do. The first fight scene we see with him, he gets like that one ingot of metal and just like wastes everybody with it way back when. And this is where he says, how do you know what I was like in the old days? Who are you? And this is a good question. Anyone have any theories? I mean, everyone seemed to be equally mystified by this when we were talking about it a minute ago.
I got nothing.
Yeah, not really a theory on who he is, but definitely interested in how he knows so much. I mean, even to the point where he knows that Kelsier didn't grow up as a scar on the street. He knows something. So
see, that one I feel like he actually explains, where he's like, no, I know street kids. They do not act like that.
Yeah, I guess that's yeah. He feels like he knows it as a fact though, rather than speculating. He could just be a really good con man or something. It's I don't know. I just thought between that and then this, it's like you definitely know who this kid is.
He does seem to know a lot here. And then of course we get moments where Gemmel is talking to himself. He's like, no, I like him. He almost never complains. The other 3 complained all the time. So, yeah, he's crazy, is what I'm getting from this.
He's not crazy. He just has imaginary friends. Because he doesn't have any real friends.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, this is why Kelsier was talking to the pits of Hathsin. It's another thing he learned from Gemmel.
It's part of being a real mistborn. You have to talk to things. So Kelsier asks what they're doing, and he says infiltrating this keep. And Kelsier says, why? And Gemmel says, does it matter? And Kelsier says, it sure as hell does. And Gemmel says, there's something important in there that we're going to find. And Kelsier has his sarcastic, well, that explains everything. Thank you for being so forthcoming. Could you possibly enlighten me on the meaning of life? And Gemmel says, I don't know. I think it's so that we can die. Because Gemmel doesn't get sarcasm. Interesting meaning of life, though. Gemmel tells Kelsier that we're going up and then down and then up again. Or no, just up and then down, I guess. Sorry. And was anyone surprised when they get to the top and Gemmel pushes him off?
Not even a little. I was like, that will be the one bit we do see.
Also, how many times does this guy push Kelsier off things? And how is Kelsier not used to this yet?
Yeah, I don't think I would have thought to showboat on top of the tower like he was and then not expect to be kicked off.
I like that he prefaces it by like, you're growing more confident. That's good. And then down he goes.
Also, we missed the bit, like, one of my favorite bits of this story was, like, Gemmel wears a miscloak. Kelsier asked for one. Gemmel had laughed at him. That was, I love that little note.
Yeah.
Again, very different from how he treated Vin.
Oh yeah.
Can I have one of those? Shit ain't ready for that.
And then, and see, I love the combination of that and like the very last line of the story where it's like Kelsier went off to find someone to make him a mist cloak.
Yep.
He's like, I don't need your
He's like,
permission.
yeah, I'll get my own mist cloak with blackjack.
Blackjack, yeah.
And hookers.
And hookers.
Oh gosh. So yeah, they're just they went up so they could find where the basement is, and then they go down to the basement. And when Gemmel explains that we had to go high up so that I could look for an entrance, and Kelsier was like, wait, that actually sounds reasonable. You must have hit your head on something. And so, okay, before we get there, Gemmel says that they're going in here to find something. What do you guys think that they were going in to find, knowing how the story ends?
I guess they were going in to find this dude so they could kill him.
Okay.
Because as soon as they come in, like, now that I know the end,
Right.
it's like, because as soon as they get in there and down in the basement, he doesn't say, where is it? He's like, where is he?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
The whole thing was a test.
Okay. He just says there's something important that we have to find, and so I was wondering if anyone thought there was more to it than just tricking Kelsier into fighting this guy. Of course.
I kind of thought, given the title of the short story, I sort of thought it was something to do with the 11th metal. But, you know, whether they were actually going to go and find a piece of the 11th metal or they were finding something else, yeah, I didn't think they were looking for the person specifically.
When we get to the end of the story, all Gemmel takes from the place is what I think is a fork. He's like, now this is a fork, and puts it in his pocket.
Which just leads me to believe that he carries around one fork that he uses all the time. and he sees this fork, he's like, forget that old fork I had. Now this is a fork. I'm gonna take this one.
He's gonna go give that to the seagull to pass on to the Little Mermaid.
Yes, that's what I thought too. I was like, he's going to brush that crazy mane of hair of his with his dingle hopper.
But you're right. As soon as they get in there, Gemmel puts his hands on his hips, looks around, and says, so where is he? As if Kelsier knows the answer, because Kelsier didn't even know there was someone they were looking for.
He's talking to his imaginary friends. It's like, you guys are meant to be scouting for me, damn it.
And they find all of these people beaten within an inch of their lives, bloodied, wearing only rags. The floor was damp, probably because someone had recently been there to toss a bucket of water on the prisoners to keep the laboratory from stinking. Oh, jeez. So
Is this the sucks to be a Scar segment?
yeah, this is
Yeah.
it's maybe been a while since we've
joke.
had one of these, but this may be the worst It Sucks to Be a Ska segment yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Please free us or kill us.
I don't care which.
Please
And so
save us from mistborn Mengel.
Yeah, he's kind of Mengele. You're not. So apparently this guy is taking random ska and trying to make them snap so that he can test his new metals. It's really kind of a long way to go, I feel like. Like, he doesn't find an allomancer or anything. He goes and pulls out random people and beats the crap out of them to try to make them snap into allomancers.
I guess because he doesn't have to pay them.
Yeah. Regular allomancers have lives and rights and things. Ska don't have such pesky things.
Yeah, I mean, terrible, insane thing to do, but also, fits his needs just fine. It's like, okay, well, he's doing what I thought the Inquisitors were doing, right? He's got a lab where he's making crazy metals, and he's going to test them out on these ska to see if they're poisonous before he uses them, basically, is what I'm getting from this.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, he would have to either find a mistborn, which is super rare among ska, or he would have to find a misting for one of those new metals that he finds, right?
Right.
Which goes back to what we talked about last time, whether the new metals would have mistings or not, which I think you guys kind of felt, at least Joe especially, was like, I think that there would be, and they've just maybe lied about there not being mistings for some of these metals. So maybe that's the case here, but...
Yeah, or just the fact that since not very many people know about those metals, it's like, well, why would I test to see if you could use this metal? I don't even know that you can use a metal, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, have this bead of enriched uranium. What?
Yeah, we'd have to get really, really lucky here to either find a new kind of misting for his new metal that he's come up with, or find a mistborn. But then again, one of the people there is like, I don't think that he's completely sane, the things that he does. Which shocking, right?
Just like Gemmel.
You're not wrong. Gemmel is also crazy. Not quite the same kind of crazy, I guess, but
No.
Yeah. I wonder if he's doing like a crazy evil X thing. Gemmel's doing this to Kelsier. It's like that was one of Gemmel's old students, and he's just like, why don't I take you around? You just kill all my old students. I don't like them.
ooh, that'd be dark.
God. Damn, I fucked up with this one. All right. let's kill two birds with one stone.
And I love when the guy shows up and they start fighting, and his thing's like, do you have any idea what all of that is worth? Like, you are breaking my expensive shit. What is your problem? And this is where Kelsier learns an important lesson about not carrying metal, like on his buttons, in his pockets. You would think that'd have been like lesson 1 or something, right? But Gemmel doesn't teach that way. You learn by doing. And then here's where we find out that brawling was an old habit of Dachshund's. And he's like, man, I should have picked some of that up. Then he stabs him with a piece of glass. Just like, stabby.
Yep.
And the guy's like, no, I can't. Not me. I can't die. And Kelsier says anyone can die. And that's what gives him the idea.
Yeah, and good old Brandon Sanderson makes great points. Like, doesn't matter how much pewter you have, you get your throat slit. Don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of need blood pumping to your brain. That's a thing. And
Oh no, get back in. Daddy needs you.
Apparently, Gemmel just has some really good information, because presumably this guy was not like a publicly known mistborn, or else Kelsier would have heard about that when he was gathering information. But Gemmel knew, he's like, that this guy was not only a mistborn, but that he was like a nerd mistborn and would be an easy fight to start with.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's one of his ex-students.
Yeah, maybe. And so Gemmel starts digging through notebooks on the table, and Kelsier's letting all the women go. And Kelsier's like, what are you doing? As Gemmel's looking through a book, and that's where he finds theories and suppositions regarding the existence of an 11th metal. Personal notes. So here is presumably where Kelsier finds for the first time that maybe there's an 11th metal, and starts him on his trek to destroy the Lord Ruler with the mysterious 11th metal, which seems completely useless and yet is absolutely integral to Vin actually defeating the Lord Ruler. So,
Yep. It also begs the question, why is this nobleman searching for it? Like, what was his plan to do with it? Was he just doing it for science, or was he, like, actually hoping to... I mean, I presume this is, like, one sort of science experiment. It's like, let's find the damn thing and then let's see what it does.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what drove him to try and find it, I wonder?
That's a good question. If it was, like, specifically science, like... Or it might be, he's a Mistborn... So it might be, if I can find a metal that nobody else has found that gives me, like, a new power that no one else knows how to use, then I will be the most powerful Mistborn of all.
Science, bitch!
And Gemmel throws the book down and carefully and meticulously selects a fork from the fallen tools. Now that is a fork. And he shoves it in his pocket. So I like to think that, really, Gemmel knew that this fork was there, and that's what they were coming to find, and that the Mistborn thing was just completely secondary.
He's like, yeah, there's a Mistborn here I want you to fight, but I'm looking for a real nice fork.
Perhaps the fork is made of the 11th metal.
Ooh. That would be weird. A weird thing for Shesler to create out of his new metal, but yeah.
Good, but
I need the 11th metal to create the perfect dinnerware set.
Anytime you eat from it, you can see someone's future. Or past, whichever it is.
Maybe it puts trace elements of the metal on your food and you've just got a constant supply, maybe?
Sure.
That is how
you're not supposed
Finn
to...
got little bits of
yeah.
pewter to burn at the beginning of the book.
It's
Right,
it's like he's having
why...
a dinner party and he's giving everyone LSD.
Yeah.
But I guess a fork is one of those objects that you maybe have to be as crazy as Gemmel to figure out is important. Who else? Like, why would a nobleman go, yeah, I'd like that fork, please? Like,
crazy like a
doesn't
fox. That's Gemmel, all right.
No, crazy like a fork.
Stupid like a fox.
Okay. Yep. And that's the end. Kelsier's going to go off and find himself someone to make a mist cloak.
Because he's vain.
And then we did not read the postscript because bad. So, our first Cosmere short story. What did you guys think? I mean, we kind of talked about that at the beginning of the episode, but
Yeah. It gave me a real sense of like a Bond becoming Bond thing. You know, at the beginning of Casino Royale, it's like in order to become a full 00, you have to kill somebody. Or I guess in Casino Royale, you have to kill. Well, no, it's just one. He just kills that second guy anyway.
No, I think they said to become a 00, it takes 2.
Oh, it does take 2? Okay.
Yeah. To see if it gets any easier with the second.
Makes sense. So yeah, it's like that. This was his 00 moment. It's like he's got to get his first kill under his belt to like be on his way to be a fully fledged mistborn, apparently.
According to his master, at least. Yeah, that seems to be the deal.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Vin is obviously very talented, but I don't think she really comes into her own until she does kill like her first person.
You mean Shan or somebody else?
No, she killed the first person she killed in the book was like some guard or something.
Well, yeah, that's why I was at, because it's like, was it her first mistborn, like what he's making Kelsier do, or just her first person? That is when stuff starts to pick up after she kills Shan. It's like she starts doing crazy stuff.
Because, I mean, this isn't the first person Kelsier has killed. He wiped out the guards of the pits, so...
That's true, yeah.
He did do that thing. And I'm sure he's killed other people in his career as a criminal.
Oh, yeah. Or sent people to their deaths, or sent people to kill other people.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's not the brawler type, as he lets us know. But, you know, knife in the back or something, I'm sure he's done when it was necessary. Okay. So, for next time, let me bring up our thing. Everyone should have your copies of The Well of Ascension. And for next week, there is no prologue in this one. It's actually the only one of the 3 with no prologue.
Oh.
So
spoiler.
Not really. It's actually funny that I say that, because there's one book in one of the Cosmere series. There's a now I gotta pull it up because I gotta get this exactly right. There is I think there's a preface and a prologue, and then there's a prelude and then a prologue, and then some flashbacks at the beginning of this. It's just a lot.
When does the book start?
Stuff.
Like chapter 12?
Right? That's
it's like when you're playing Kingdom Hearts 3 and it's an hour in, and then the title screen finally pops up.
Oh God. Kingdom Hearts 3 is all like pointless prologue until the story finally takes off in the final level.
Sorry, ridiculous. Kingdom Hearts 3, but you suck.
I mean, it's fun to play, I guess. There's just the story is ridiculously handled.
Well, just the fact that like in all the other games, like going to the Disney worlds fed into the story, whereas this one not so much.
Nope.
Yeah, this one was like, let's throw some Disney at you, and here's some story at the end.
Yeah. It's like, hey, it's Frozen World. It doesn't mean anything, but isn't it cool looking?
And we're also going to make you listen to this entire song that you've heard a million times.
Yep. Okay, so for next time, we are reading chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 of The Well of Ascension.
Whoa.
It seems like a lot, except until you find out that chapter 1 and chapter 4 are both shorter than any chapter we read in the Final Empire, like considerably shorter than any chapter we read in there. So this book has some of the most inconsistently sized chapters. There are some episodes where we read 4 chapters. There's some episodes where we read 2. I think most of them we end up reading 3. But it is very variable. Although I say that, I think on my schedule for the next book, for Hero of Ages, we read 4 chapters a lot, and then sometimes 5, and then sometimes all the way down to like 2 or 3. So that's also kind of variable. But anyway, so yes, 4 chapters for next time, and it will still be, even at 4 chapters, it'll be like on the short. If you looked at the episodes and the amount we read for each episode in the Final Empire, it would be in the bottom half lengthwise of amounts of stuff that we've read for an episode. So yes, 4 chapters, and it should be interesting to see. We're not going to do predictions this time, because we did predictions for what we think is going to happen in the next books and stuff last episode, and there's not really any new information towards that, I think, that we got from the short story. So I didn't see any reason for us to do Predigments again right in a row. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting to see what you guys think of the direction that this second book is taking, because we get dropped right into it at the beginning here. So, all right, 4 chapters. anyone has, since we're not doing predicments, anyone have anything else you want to touch on? We don't have any emails or anything this time either, so this may be a short episode for us, which is good because the last one, the raw edit before I started editing was like 2.5 hours. So
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to unpack.
There was, and after the edit, I think it came out to like 1 hour and 40 some odd minutes, maybe. I forget exactly, but I relate to what you said earlier, Jamie, about like, you're like, man, I was talking for a long time, because I do that a lot in these episodes. And when I start cutting, I'm just like, there's a big section of me just talking. Who cares? Just cut me out. No one wants to hear me. Every episode.
You are the guide. You're the boatman for us. We're just the passengers in the boat over this river.
Yeah, but you're the experience that you guys are having is what people are here for. I already know all the stuff. I'm boring. So a lot of the explanation and stuff that I did last time, especially at the end of the episode, where I'm like, let me go off on this big thing about like secret history. I'm like, no. Just I cut like 10 minutes out of there because I don't need to talk that long. It's fine. So anyway, anything anyone else wants to touch on before we're done?
I will just say, like, I think I mentioned earlier, I was trying to go over what are things that we haven't talked about, which I think might play a part in the next book. And like the biggest thing I've come up with is like, I don't think we mentioned like what are the Koloss or whatever those creatures are. Mm-hmm. And just to have a small predicament to throw in there, I'm wondering, are they the mist creatures that stabbed the Hero of Ages' buddy?
Oh, so they'd be even like Mist Wraiths are blobby, but this would be even like more like, this is more misty, I guess, is the thing that stabbed him. So
yeah, and you know they make a point even in this short story, like the mists do respond to allomancers. So maybe like the Lord Rule is such a powerful one, he controlled them or something, and he would guide them towards what he wanted them to practice their stabbing on.
Ooh, well, that makes you wonder if he could control them, like. Yeah. What are they doing now when he's gone?
Yeah. So yeah, I just think, all right, like they threw that into the epigraphs, and I'm like, we never really got an answer on that. I wonder if that's going to come back into play. And then I was thinking of the Koloss, and like, Also, I made a small list of characters. I'm like, I wonder if these guys are going to come back. Like, you know, we talked about we reckon Strathbench is going to come back, but Menace, Goodman Menace, and like Wayland, the new survivor, Lady Kliss, and Hoyd the informant. I'm like, I feel like these guys will probably show up again in some capacity.
Okay. I could see the environment will definitely be different for Kliss if she comes back, because the nobility things are going to change presumably in this new society. Yeah. So that would certainly be interesting. He told the guy who climbed, Wayland, was that what you said his name was? The guy who climbed out of the pits. He was like,
Wayland, yeah.
Go far away and sell this adium and like, you know, live like a king that way. So if he listened, then he probably is not gonna be in Luthadel at least. But who says we're going to be in Luthadel this whole book again? So
yeah. I mean, especially if we're going to the Well of Ascension.
Yeah, well, exactly, right.
I feel like Wayland's probably the least consequential in this book of those four characters that I mentioned, but they took the time to give us a point of view of this person and showing him surviving and getting out of there. And it's like, it wasn't just Kelsier, a scene of Kelsier grabbing this unnamed Scar out and telling him they're a survivor and to get out of Dodge. We met this guy and saw his life. So I feel like maybe he's a bit more important than just the average Scar.
And of course, we've seen Goodman Menace a couple times now, so I totally wouldn't be surprised to see him come back. Although you gotta wonder what he's doing now. Like, if he was part of the army, they slipped back into Luthadel. Did he participate in, you know, the killing of the whatever was left of the garrison and stuff?
Maybe.
Or is he just old now and he's like, I'm gonna relax, people?
Yeah.
And then Hoyd, he was an informant. There's probably a use for a street informant still.
Well, I think the there's still gonna be politicking and backstabbing and stuff. And so I think that guy is just gonna find his way into a nice little corner and keep up what he's doing. So I feel like we haven't seen the last of him.
He seemed like he was pretty good at what he did. So yeah.
He was a very little one-off, but I thought he's kind of fun. I like him.
I agree. I liked him, and I like his name. His name is fun to say. So okay, I like where you're going. Like, you got your list of characters. Like, who's going to show up again? You got a scorecard. See when they pop in.
I was thinking of like the non-obvious ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Any things?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Now I'm scared that the Koloss are going to show up and be like these creepy ghost things and kill everybody.
What are you talking about? You're scared. What?
Well, you know, it's much scarier than gooey blobs or whatever Jamie called.
I don't know. Goo blobs are pretty scary, man.
I mean, I get the goo blobs do eat your flesh and save your bones for later, so maybe that is a little bit scary. But okay, well, thanks everybody for listening. If you want to send us emails, it is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Feel free to find us on Twitter, the Sanderlanche, on Facebook, on Instagram. Did I put up? Oh yeah, I did put up an Instagram thing this week. Sorry, it's like the one thing I don't have automated because I got to go out and take a picture of something and put it on there. So I'm always like, oh crap, did I forget this week? No, I remembered it. It's fine. Also, music by Miracle of Sound. You should have heard our one-off at the beginning of this episode, and another clip will play right now for the end music. But next week, we will have the music I've picked out specifically for our coverage of Well of Ascension. So tune in for that just to hear the new song. You don't even need to listen to us. It's just great song. It's fine. If you're curious, this song for this episode is called Only Us, and it's by Miracle of Sound. So you can go and find that and listen to the whole thing if you want to. And I think that's everything. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you next week.